What is up, guys? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're covering some more am I the butthole? If you're new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe and maybe that notification bell too, as it all really helps out our channel, and that's only if you enjoy the content, of course. And don't forget, you can follow us on podcast too now, so you can take us with you wherever you go, and also you can join the channel either through YouTube membership or head on over to Patreon. And with that being said, let's get in to today's stories. Much love, guys. And our first story comes from Got Milk. Am I the arsehole for switching to regular milk to prove my lactose intolerant roommate keeps stealing from me? Me and two other guys share an apartment together and we split all the bills. The only thing we don't split costs on is groceries. Everyone's in charge of buying their own food and we don't touch whatever doesn't belong to us in the fridge. We put our names on everything so no one gets mixed up. This issue has been going on for almost a year and I'm sick of it. One of our roommates, R, keeps stealing my food. I get home from work and containers with my leftovers are sometimes missing. They have my name written on it. All my stuff finishes too quick. My gallon of milk, for example. I buy almond milk because I like the taste, but it seems to finish after a week even though I've only drank once or twice. I confronted R about this lots of times. That's caused a lot of arguments. He outright denies it and tells me that I'm crazy even though it's so obvious. My other roommate and I carpool together because we don't work the same early morning shifts around the same area, so I know it's not him. It's always after we get back home and R's already left for work that I notice my food is gone. My roommates also had a similar problem, but not as often as I do. I'm guessing because R doesn't like what he buys. The funny thing is, R buys a lot for himself and is even more stingy about his food. He will literally point out what's his when he comes back from grocery shopping and tells us not to touch it. Last week, my milk was nearly empty again and I got fed up. I went to the liquor store and bought a regular dairy milk. I drank what was left of my almond milk and refilled the gallon with one I bought. This was to catch/prove R is the one stealing, since he's lactose intolerant. The next day, Saturday, we got back from work and R is pissed. He yelled at me that he was stuck in the bathroom for 40 minutes with diarrhea because of my milk. He was using it to make a shake. I only responded with, "So you're the one who's been stealing?" He freaking exploded. Maybe that's a bad term, seeing he's got diarrhea. Yeah, he admitted he was sometimes drinking my milk and eating my food, but he was more mad that I switched milks than the fact he was caught. I told him I wouldn't have done that if he'd just stopped taking my stuff from the fridge, or at least told the truth, instead of trying to make it seem like I was making it up. My roommate backed me up and thought it was kind of funny he got payback for stealing from us. It's a little tense right now and my roommate told me I was trying to convince him to agree to kick me out. Little does he know, we're both looking to move somewhere else together because we're sick of his shit. I told some buddies what happened and a few think I was the arsehole for that. I feel like I'm not in the wrong here. He was taking my food, not even owning up to it, and I wanted to prove it. Does that make me the arsehole? Now I was looking at, I don't know too much about lactose intolerance apart, so I looked it up on Google and it says it's mainly bloating and stomach aches and diarrhea basically are the effects of drinking lactose. And the reason I read that up because I thought, well, if it's more serious than that and they end up in hospital, you may be the arsehole in the situation if you purposely did that. And I'm not trying to downplay lactose intolerance, so don't get me wrong here. But you know, inflicting the squits on someone that's stealing your shit, then I think fair enough in my opinion. I like a little bit of revenge as well. I'm a petty arsehole like that. And I love the fact that he gets mad at you for this situation, that you've done that after you've been denying stealing your milk for so long. Oh, I love that. So I'm going to say not the arsehole in this situation, but let's go down to the comments below to see what they say. Janie says, not the arsehole. As you said, if R wasn't stealing your food, he wouldn't have had a problem. HCP56 says, not the arsehole, it's your food. You could have put your medicine in it, or even your pet's medication in it. You could have put a laxative in it, or even a syrup of ipecac, and I would still say not the arsehole. When people steal food, lie about it and don't replace it, they reap what they sow. Food is expensive, especially milk substitutes. Without replacing the food, he was essentially stealing money from your wallet. To which OP replies, oh yeah, it really is. I try to buy from grocery stores that sell organic, so it does get pretty expensive. And we're going to leave that one there because I think not the arsehole is probably going to be the case in this situation. So I'd be interested to know if anyone actually does think you're the arsehole for this. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 1. Our next story is from Sister Squabbles. Am I the arsehole for calling out my sister after she shamed me in my proposal online? I'm 28, my sister is 26. She got married 3 years ago and has 1 kid already. I live out of state and she's in our hometown and lives close to our parents. Last week my sister had her second pregnancy announcement at a birthday dinner for our dad. I couldn't attend. Everyone of course was excited and sent congrats. This past Friday, my long-term boyfriend and I went hiking on our favourite trail and had a picnic. We walked back to his car and he asked me to get something from the trunk. When I opened it, there was a sign that said turn around and pictures of us from when we started dating. When I turned, he was kneeling with a ring. This proposal is cheesy and romantic and I melted. This was also the anniversary of our first date apparently, which I didn't even remember. I posted pictures of the ring and the proposal story and called my parents and friends. The ring was a refurb of his grandmother's with the same stones and shape but a more modern design. I found out yesterday, and by that I mean I was sent screenshots by an old friend in my hometown, that my sister had been shaming my proposal and me online. She was saying I purposely had my engagement right after her pregnancy announcement and that I was also clearly jealous my little sister had gotten married first. She also made fun of my rustic proposal, saying money can't buy class. My fiance and I both have good jobs, so she thinks we're rich snobs, and made fun of my gaudy ring. I ended up confronting my sister and said she was being petty and I didn't like her mocking me online. She got uppity and defensive, of course, and tried denying it. I told her I felt bad for her children since their mother was such an immature bully. She's been accusing me of saying she's a bad mum, and my mum thinks I shouldn't have stooped to her level. Am I the arsehole? Edit. Wow, this response is overwhelming. I appreciate all the well wishes. Firstly, I want to say there's nothing wrong with staying in your hometown or being a wife and mother. Please don't act like this is some sort of awful fate. Don't shame her for having children young. Everyone has a different definition of a happy life. Secondly, I appreciate the interest in my proposal/ring photos, but I made a new account to stay anonymous and I'm generally a private person. It would be very hypocritical of me to have identifying info in a post ranting about my family drama too. Third, yes, my boyfriend, fiance, is wonderful. We've been together for 7 years and he never ceases to impress me. Good boyfriend. Now, it sounds like you didn't purposely do this engagement. You didn't know about the engagement. Your boyfriend did and he set it all up. So there's no way you're just doing that to overshadow her like her pregnancy. So not the arsehole at all. But I don't like what your mum said about stooping to her level because you're clearly not. I mean, you went up to her and confronted her about it, and what more can you do apart from just ignore it, which I don't think you should do that. I think people like that need to be confronted and they need to be told. But let's go down into the comments below to see what we can find. Noz says, not the arsehole, your sister clearly loves the attention and has pissed your engagement has now become a shadow to her second child's pregnancy announcement. This is really uncalled for and honestly gross. And someone also said, which I thought as well at the same time actually, Oatmeal Raisin Cookie replies, wasn't it also mentioned that her sister announced her pregnancy at her dad's birthday dinner? Yeah. Snarking in the USA says, not the arsehole, she is an immature bully. Best wishes on wedding planning. I think the proposal story is sweet. And Pristine Treat says, not the arsehole, so your sister thinks what? That you've been deviously waiting for her to announce another pregnancy so you can upstage her with your engagement. Does she know how proposals generally work and that most of the time they're in complete surprise to the person being proposed to? Also, as an aside, I hate when my parents tell me to not stoop to my sister's level, so you low-key admit you raised a petty, shitty kid who always takes the low road. Maybe your parents should tell her to stop being so horrible. And I turn it to you guys. What do you guys think of this story? What do you guys think about the soppy fiance? Bless him. Let me know in the comments below and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 2. And our next story is called, am I the arsehole for putting my toddler sister to bed without dinner after she refused to eat? So I just turned 16 and I have a 2, nearly 3-year-old sister. Her dad isn't in our lives anymore. This means that my mum expects me to babysit whenever she has to work, which I always do even though I am doing online summer school classes. Yesterday morning around 11 AM, my mum messaged me and told me that she was going to work a double shift and wouldn't be home until well after midnight. I was frustrated because this is happening more and more frequently, and I have homework to do, but it can't be helped and I understand we need extra money, so I just said okay. A couple hours later I saw in my Facebook feed that mum was tagged in a photo by a friend from the night before. It was some sort of girls' social distance movie night or some shit like that. I clicked on it and started going through the photos and saw this wasn't the first time. Every time she claimed to be working and said I had to babysit, she was getting together at a friend's house, knowing full well I needed to focus on homework. I was so mad and tried to text my mum, but she never responded. So last night I made macaroni and cheese for dinner. My sister was not having it and kept demanding other things, and when I told her no, she started screeching and crying and threw her macaroni everywhere. I was frustrated and told her she could either eat what I give her or not eat at all. She chose not to eat. Later on, when I went to put her to bed, she started asking for pizza. I told her she could have some of the leftover mac before I went to bed, but that was it. She started having a tantrum again, and I was just done with it all, so I just picked her up and put her in a room and left. But then she came right back out, demanding food, so I put her back in her room. This repeated several times until I snapped and just locked the door so she couldn't get out. She kept screaming and crying, so I just put my earphones in to drown her out to focus on my homework. Well, when my mum came home, apparently my sister was still throwing a tantrum, and my mum barged into my room and ripped my headphones off and started yelling at me about ignoring her. I told her that I have my own stuff to do, and now that she lied to me, I don't really care to help her out so much. She called me selfish and stormed out, and hasn't talked to me since. Oh my word, this is such a sad story if you think about the scenario that's behind it. And I know people are going to say that the girl was wrong that she locked this child in the room, put headphones on and just left the child to it, because obviously they were unsupervised at that point because you went and done your homework and things. But at the same time, you're 16, you're a kid, you don't really know how to look after a child. I'm really sorry, but in my opinion, it's just not the arsehole in this situation. This poor girl who's trying to get on with her own life, trying to do her homework, is being left while her mum's out partying. It takes the piss. If I was in that girl's shoes and I went on there and saw the mum was out partying while I was looking after the kid knowing I had homework to do, I'd be fuming. Absolutely fuming. Her mum has put her in a stressful, super stressful situation. Like midnight, this girl is banging on doors or whatever, throwing a tantrum in her room while this girl is trying to do her homework at the same time. That's just not on. Let's go down to the comments to see what we can find. Webby Vanderquack says, everyone sucks here. Firstly, this is your mum's responsibility, not yours, so I have a lot of compassion for you, but I think you cross a line into arsehole territory here. And then mentions about locking her in the room when she was screaming and stuff. That's not discipline. It's really traumatizing. Don't forget that if it's hard on you to be left at home without your mother, it's hard for her too. Especially when she's little more than a baby and can't understand why her family members have either left her, neglected her, or locked her up. You know, and that's a good point. I didn't really even think about the toddler's feelings. My bad. My dramatic person says, yeah, add in the fact that a while later OP wasn't aware that the sister was still throwing a tantrum, and when mum came home, EP wasn't just drowning her out but completely unable to hear her after locking her in another room. That's too dangerous to say OP was not an arsehole too. The mother is obviously an arsehole. Storm Armageddon 0 says, not the arsehole, you shouldn't have locked her in the room and put your headphones in. What if something happened and you would have been completely oblivious? But you're an overwhelmed 16-year-old and have been unwillingly tasked with looking after a toddler that isn't yours. The whole situation isn't fair to you or your sister. Your mum is the only arsehole here, as she's supposed to be the responsible adult and is massively failing both you and your sister. Having to work is just one of those life things, but lying to you to hang out with her friends is despicable. Stop letting her do this to you. The next time she tries, threaten to call CPS. Edit to add, good for you for sticking your guns on the macaroni thing. My daughter is 3 and has gone to bed hungry more than once for doing the same thing. Going hungry for one night isn't going to hurt her, but she needs to learn to get what she's given. Rifle Witch says, everyone sucks here. Your mother is very clearly neglecting her children. Locking your sister in a room isn't the right way to deal with her attitude though. Clover Rover 544 replies to this saying, I argue that this person is barely 16, a minor, so while her actions may not have been the right thing to do, should she expect to know anything about raising a toddler as much as she currently is? It's ultimately the mother's responsibility to ensure her own child is taken care of, not the arsehole. ETA, and she was trying to get her homework done late at night with a toddler crying. Doesn't that seem like a little too much to ask? Anyone calling OP an arsehole is in fact an arsehole. And I turn it to you guys. What do you guys think of this story? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 3. And our next story is from Oval Doves. Am I the arsehole for rescinding an offer to pay for my nephew's college? My brother and sister-in-law have always struggled financially, and I never really have. My brother and I had all the same opportunities. He just had an injury that made it much harder for him to work and put him in a lot of medical debt. I've always been able to work, never had serious debt, and don't have any kids or plan on any. I did pretty well for myself and had more than enough saved to put the kid through college. So when their kid was very young, they were really stressing out over saving for college. I told them not to worry, I would put their son through undergrad or trade school or whatever he ended up doing. That was 12 years ago, give or take. He's now a senior in high school and looking at colleges. This year, I also got wiped out by the pandemic. I'm unemployed and don't even know when, or even if, I get a job in my industry again, the same as it was. I'm downsizing in all areas of my life. I'm not broke or starving or anything, but I'm being way more conservative so I can keep paying my bills until I get a new job. Part of this included having the difficult conversation with my brother and sister-in-law that I can no longer help with their son's college in the way I'd initially hoped. That if I'm employed by the time he needs the first check, I can help with a portion, but if I'm still unemployed, I can't help at all, and in any case, I can no longer pay for all of it. So he should probably apply for some scholarships or other means of funding. They were pissed. That doesn't even really capture it. Enraged is more like it. They think I should be in much more dire straits before I revoke my offer, e.g. selling my house and moving somewhere smaller, working outside of my industry in a temp job. I do still live a much more materially higher class of life than they do, so I feel like a colossal arsehole that I'm not helping their son in the way that I had planned. On the other hand, I couldn't have foreseen these circumstances in a million years. This isn't a regular recession, the world as we know it changed, but none of that is my nephew's fault. He thought he had the security all this time, and right when he needs it, it's gone. I'm devastated, but am I an arsehole? Now this is one of those really tough ones where I'm not sure where to go, because you know, you have to look after yourself in life, but at the same time, you did make a promise, and that was years ago, like 12 years. 12 years you made that promise, and obviously they just didn't worry and thought, yes, school is sorted, no need to worry all this time. But my sort of question is, was the money put into a savings account or anything like that for it? So surely if that was the case, the money should have been secure in the first place. And maybe there should have been a discussion 12 years ago to say, like, if something serious does happen, then I'm going to need that money. So at least have a backup of some sort. I don't know, I'm really conflicted on this one. So let's go down straight to the comments to see what we can find. The Bees Other Joint says, a gentle you're the arsehole. I think that when you told him not to worry and that you would cover his schooling, you should have been putting money into account for that purpose, not just banking on you being in the same financial position down the road. Your promise led them to trusting in you, and they didn't try to save because they felt secure. You're going back on your word, and your nephew is the one suffering. I understand that financial troubles are tough, and I sympathise with you on this, but the money should have already been set aside by now. Opie replies saying, it was earmarked in my savings, and now I'm dipping into it to get through. I'm really ashamed of it, and I looked at it 100 different ways and had a financial advisor do the same, but I couldn't guarantee I'd make it through the stretch, and I will likely remain unemployed without it, without defaulting on other payments. I completely see your point and agree. I just want to make it clear, it wasn't as though it was future money I didn't ever at one time have or anything. Mrs. Don't Point of Face says, and quotes, I told him not to worry, I'd put their son through undergrad or trade school or whatever he ended up doing. And then says, you're the arsehole. You don't make an offer like that without making dead certain you have the means to follow through. You just don't. Andromeda says, info, I don't get it. Did you not set aside the money for his college, or did you and you're dipping into it? I'm getting major Scott's Tots vibes. What's Scott's Tots? Oh, it's the Office episode. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, it's so true. OP replies to this saying, the short version is, I did and now I need to dip into it, get through this unprecedented period of unemployment. The long version is, when I made the promise, I was making more than enough to send the kid through college every year and had a very secure job. The coronavirus happened and the job went away. A big chunk of the entire industry went away. Meanwhile, I lost a large portion of my savings in the stock market and I have to get by for an indefinite period of time on my cash savings. I had planned for plenty of scenarios where I lost my current job and plenty of scenarios where my industry slowly became phased out and I had to consider returning to school or investigating switching fields, but I couldn't have foreseen a situation where my entire industry ceased to exist in under 3 months. I was not prepared for that and it fucked me financially. And I turn it to you guys. What do you guys think of this story? Let me know in the comments below and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 4. And our next story is from Vegetable Ad. Would I be the arsehole if I forced my daughter to split her trust fund with her brother? My mother died back in March. Her estate ended up being a little over $1 million. She had the belief that only women should be inheriting as they need/deserve a leg up. She grew up in a very misogynistic home that favoured sons to an extreme, then ended up in an abusive marriage to my much older than her father, where she had no agency until he died. She had 2 sons, me and my brother. There are only 3 grandchildren, my son and daughter, 2-year-old twins, and my brother and his wife's 8-year-old daughter. My mother decided to set the inheritance only to the 2 girls, who now have 500k each, while my son has 0. These trust funds are controlled by the respective parents. While the most fair situation would be to pool it and split it in 3, I can't control that. But in our household, we're in a situation where one of my children is getting $500,000 and the other is getting absolutely nothing. On gender alone, this feels horrible as a parent, and technically, I can stop it. I want to forcibly split my daughter's trust in 2, which would give both $250,000. This would be more fair. We have friends and family that are on both sides of the issue, and I honestly don't know what to do. Now, there was lots of comments saying you're the arsehole and all this kind of thing below, but I found one comment in there that was it's a well-balanced comment, so I'm going to read that one out. Gold Dusted says, I don't know what to say here, maybe nobody's an arsehole. Some comments are ridiculous. I was actually in the position of your daughter for a similar reason, and I chose to split the inheritance in question with my brother, the only other possible recipient. So I completely understand how you feel. It's natural, and I really can't understand the tone of some of the you're the arseholes here. I can't stand it when people favour one child or grandchild, and I'm so sorry your mother put you in this position. If this money is in a trust fund, are you even able to split it? I wouldn't have thought this possible, but supposing you can split it, your children are 2 years old, and if no one else in the family knew about it, I'd be tempted to say go ahead. I couldn't seriously blame you. It wouldn't be an arsehole move, it's coming from an entirely good place. The situation is unfair, and I commend you for feeling such pain at the different treatment allotted to your children. But as it is, it sounds like this will come back to haunt you. Anytime there's an argument in your family, relatives will bitch to your daughter to start an argument, undermine you, get one over on you, etc. You can use the comments here as examples of what they'd say. You stole from one child to fit your idea of social justice, etc, etc. It may sour the relationship between your 2 children. You're absolutely not an arsehole for being upset with your mother's decision here. But if you respected her in other ways, and it sounds like her intentions towards her granddaughters were very kind and generous, especially given the reason, it could niggle at you. It could also put your son in an unfortunate position within the family. Perhaps a better option would be to ensure your daughter doesn't get a penny until she's 18, and only save up for your son. If you get a trustee's share from investing your daughter's money that you're allowed to keep, rather than adding to her total, put that towards your son. But whatever you do not favour your son in any way that's perceptible to the kids, or you'll only be justifying your mother's motivation. It doesn't sound like you take it out on your daughter, but it's worth saying. Simply take the amount you could afford to be putting away for both children, and put it solely towards your son. Until you've made that amount, ensure that your will makes up for the difference, i.e. your son gets more than your daughter, up to the amount that ensures he gets the first 500k as well. Anything else, make sure that they receive exactly the same. The same rules, the same amount of money spent on hobbies, even stupid things like the exact same share of sitting in the front seat of the car. If your daughter is to get this money when she's 18, her life while she's dependent on you must be the same as her brother's. Similarly, if you choose to split the money, make sure you put down your own resentment or guilt out of your mind and ensure you treat both children equally henceforth. I think you should explain the situation as soon as the kids are intelligent enough and leave the choice to your daughter. This is what my parents did. They told me that I was to inherit some money and that was mine and no one else had any claim to it whatsoever. But this meant they were saving my brother alone so that he had a chance of having the same. This would also mean a lot of talking with your kids about finance, so your daughter doesn't blow all her money at 18 and feel cheated or entitled to the same amount from you if her brother gets his when he's older and more mature. When I inherited in my 20s and I gave the difference to my parents so that my brother and I had the same amount going forward. I'm not bragging because I seriously didn't see any other option. So in short, trust your parenting and bring your kids up to view this as unfair. I wish you the best of luck with this. And I think as someone who's been through that, I think that's a fair and valid, balanced point there for the most part. But I'm going to turn it to you guys. What would you guys think of this situation? Do you think it's fair that the daughter gets all the money and the son doesn't? Do you think it should be split equally, or do you think that the parent should save up for the son solely to balance out that situation later in life? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 5. Once again, guys, thank you for being here today. The time out of your day is always truly appreciated, and I hope you know that. I love seeing the same faces or people in the comments below every single day. It really cheers me up. Thank you so much for the support, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.